So good morning, everyone who's joining us. Thanks for sharing your morning with us, and hopefully we won't take up too much of your time. So this morning's presentation is going to be around some new features we've got in our Embry Precise tool for message broker development. And the new features we're talking about are the inclusion of the execution groups, or the execution group details in our diagrams, or automatically generated diagrams. So just a little bit of background around where this feature came from. So as part of looking at the process and quality of applications and how they're deployed into different environments, we've been looking through, we have some rules that look through the build configuration for Ant. Well, the intention is when you create a flow, you deploy it automatically through, as I said, something like Ant, and then that progresses through each of the environments. Now, we have been noticing some gaps with this sort of approach. Firstly, that not everyone uses Ant, so there might be alternative ways that people do deploy things that could be either manually or through some other tool. The second is that some organizations are starting to turn off that particular XML processing because they have other XML files that they need to actually analyze, and Ant files are a high priority. So this meant that we had to have another look at how we're doing this, and it sort of leads into some more functionality we've been talking about building into for one of our customers, which is around the security of message broker and execution groups. So what we've done is we've sort of extended upon the way the code coverage works, and the code coverage works in the analysis by taking something called a coverage file, stands for a coverage file, which has been generated as part of the runtime process, and then we merge that in with the with our static analysis by using this code coverage, generic code coverage path. So what we want to do is we're going to do this including it in the same sort of way. So something you can add in and include a little bit of extra information, a little bit of extra runtime information as part of your analysis, or you could choose to ignore it. And so what we've developed is some Ant tools and some Java code that essentially works by connecting up to your broker or connecting up to your runtime broker, extracting the information it needs, writing it back in a common XML format that allows you then to import that into the analysis. And we've called that the runtime XML, which we declare or we define in our Sonar properties when we run. So what this means is when Sonar analysis runs up, it looks at these two particular files, and as well as including static analysis of all the ESQL message flow codes, it also looks to match these the code coverage against the flows that are there, and then also tries to match the runtime information of the execution groups against the flows that are there. So it should tell us a little bit about how our execution groups, or how our flows are deployed in our runtime environment. So for a quick demonstration, we just run our analysis, and we end up with, after configuring our setup property file, and we end up with some additions to the diagrams we've previously created. So previously we had the ability to show which execution groups, which flows have been tested. So in this case here, we can see that this particular flow has been tested, this one hasn't. So the same way in that diagram that we look at marking which one's been tested, which ones haven't. We're also looking to include the execution group information. So in this case here, what we've done is we've summarized the execution group information across the flows. So in this case here, we've said that this particular flow is deployed to two different execution groups. This particular flow here, test 1, is actually not deployed to any execution group. Single test 2 single is deployed to execution group 2, and so on and so forth. So what we see here in our diagrammatic representation is we can turn particular switches on, and we can see which flows in which execution groups. Now, in this simplistic diagram here, we're not really getting a lot of benefit from just being able to see the highlighted just being able to see this particular highlighted field, highlighted in the diagram, or this color-coded in the diagram, this particular diagram. But again, this is a fairly simplistic diagram. So imagine if we had a diagram that potentially had 50 or 100 flows in there, being able to distinguish between which ones are across which execution groups could be really useful information for an operations or an architect to know. That way you can see which execution group, which flows are related by the interactions using the automatic drawing tool, and then within those interactions we'll see which of those interactions go across different execution groups. So we find all this particular part of a single process is within one execution group. You might decide that's the appropriate architecture for you, and in reverse, you might decide that certain types of flows should be in particular types of execution groups. So, for example, incoming SOAP flows or incoming SOAP reporting, you might want to have in a single execution group, while the actual processing of the logic, you may have some sort of asynchronous detachment, so that you have an incoming SOAP request that gets fulfilled off the back of a request to another queue. And what this means is, you can start doing some interesting things in your architecture. So you can, for example, look to say all your incoming flows in one execution group, which is always turned on and has minimalistic logic, and gets processed by a separate execution group. So you can always have that always available sort of process, while the actual processing can be switched on or switched off as you need. So if you're deploying new versions, you might switch off an execution group or disable the flows in an execution group, so you could update those particular flows without affecting the incoming requests being processed, or at least being queued for later. So it's going to be a quick session. So just if anyone does have any questions, please feel free to ask. If not, I will thank you for your time and let you get on with your day. Again, please, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. The contact details are on the website on the contact page. And we've also actually added a new chat ability, so you can also chat to us live when we're available. So it doesn't look like there's any questions from this session, so I will again leave you to have a think about what we talked about. The next extension, or the next feature we're looking to do with this is building rules into this execution group information. So as I was saying, you might have a particular architecture that you'd like to support, and so we're looking to build rules based on that. So that we're not only looking at how the code's written, how the code is structured, but also we can look to define rules about how the code is deployed. Thank you again for your time.